So, Dave, obviously, season's over now. Right decision in the end, and one that you probably agree with.
Yeah, I think the had to end it no, without a doubt. I think it should end right throughout the leagues. It's just resolving the situation in terms of relegation and promotion. I mean, it doesn't affect us too much. We've lost two cup semi-finals, which we were desperate to play in because we really want to win a trophy this season. But ultimately, the right decision's been made. I do feel for teams, especially like South Shields, Vauxhall Motors, teams who look, well, Vauxhall Motors were already promoted, but they look bankers for promotion, South Shields. So it's a bit of a blow to them. Who knows how it works above? They've got to decide in the national leagues, and there still might be promotions or relegations. You don't know how it's going to work out. I believe there's still things like ground grading and stuff to go on. So some teams may benefit from situations like that. But in the general feeling of it all, I do think they have to win the leagues, and there's no way we can restart our leagues at a later date.
And first of all, well, obviously, Mosa, how is yourself and the family?
Yeah, all good, thank you. It's in a way, it's been good to spend time with them. I mean, I'm starting to get sick of the kids after 3 weeks in now with the home learning and everything, but you don't really get this time together as a family. My wife works for the Medical Practice Society, which looks after doctors and nurses, so she's working from home and is very busy. I've started taking on a little bit of work for my friend's company who were doing food deliveries just to keep myself busy more than anything. And in between it all, we're both trying to homeschool the kids. So it's frustrating at times, but we're getting this time together, which we won't get again.
Mr. McGurk, is it now, the teacher, yeah?
They're too cheeky, the pair of them. That's, I think, the difficult part is because we're not teachers. With the parents, they just say no when they don't want to do something. So we have found it difficult at times, but we're not putting too much pressure on ourselves. I mean, just spending time together is enough, I think, and we're trying to get some sort of education into them, but it's not going to be at the same degree to get in that school. But to be fair to the kids' school, they've been brilliant in terms of sending materials out. So everyone's in the sitting boat. We've got no complaints with it, and like I said, looking on the positive side, we've had time to spend together, which with the sun shining and we can get outdoors. We've got a nice garden, so we can't complain with it.
It must be good as well to just get out and help the local community like you're doing as well at the minute.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I've done it all from home just because simply I can't leave the kids. My wife's working full time pretty much from home. So I get an hour. It's mainly just organising the deliveries more than doing it themselves. But there's a couple of lads who are doing it, who play for Hyde, who are helping out with the deliveries, and it's giving them some work and some revenue coming in. And on a wider scale, yeah, it is helping the community. So it's something that I'll continue to do while we're not involved with football, but hopefully we're back sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I believe you've shoved Deitch into a van, haven't you, and sent him round.
Yeah, no, he's happy doing it. He's picking up a little bit of money. Otherwise, he'd just be sat at home. So, yeah, Daishi's doing a deliveries for us. Yeah, he's doing a good job, so he might keep it on.
Back to the football, of course, the first season, it's basically classed as null and void, your first season in management, but the records will be there somewhere. I mean, how do you think it went? Did it exceed your expectations in the end?
In the end, yes, from what I expected at the beginning of the season. And like I said, the only disappointment is we can't finish it, because it would have been good to have maybe a final or two, a top half finish. These were things that we were looking for and we were on track for. I do feel we got, in a strange way, we started really strongly, had a dip, and then I felt like we were getting stronger and stronger as the season went on. And that for us it was a learning process. I'll openly admit that, and I think every year in management will be, whether I'm 37 as I am now or whether I'm 65. You're always going to be learning, but we're going to use it as a season where we think we can benefit next year with the player transfer market, the loan market, in terms of the players who we want to keep. I think that is vital for us, because I think a lot of the time you can take them players for granted. And I've had this conversation with you before. Our 4 contracted players, we only had 4 contracted players this season, played in over 90% of the games, which was huge for us. So the lads who were contracted, they were injury free, they were generally suspension free, and we got the maximum efficiency out of them, and they did a fantastic job for us. And then supplemented throughout the season with non-contracted players and loan players. And the loan market is something that we'll definitely use next year. Again, I think you can see we got stronger and stronger as the season went on with it. the problem always is with the loan market, you're taking young players and there's going to be drops in form at times. I think you look at the beginning of the season, we started unbelievably well with players like Kane Noble, Lauren Thompson, Luke Newer, who started brilliantly, but they were always going to have that little bit of a dip, and not just them, with the young players around them. And that's when players need to come out. And for us, the learning part of it is having the players to then replace them when players do need to come out, because we did find ourselves wanting a little bit, partly because of the lack of knowledge in the transfer market, which we were building up, and partly because of finances, because the market was so small for us this season.
You mentioned the contracted players there. I mean, obviously that'll put us in more of not a stronger financial position as much, but we won't be paying out as much as some other clubs. Other clubs are like really worrying about the situation at the minute. And for us now, it's a case of you've probably got to look for one more week's wages for 4 players, and that's it really.
Yeah, in a way, yeah. But I mean, with the government furlough scheme now, most clubs are getting their wages paid for anyway from the government. What Hyde are doing, which is brilliant of them, and they've been brilliant with the players, they're paying the extra 20% Hyde, so they are making sure the wages are at 100%. And hopefully that goes a long way with these players. The only one I'm not confident in keeping, we've got obviously Jordan, Tongi and Pratty's with us next year anyway. He's already signed. Hopefully Jordan and Tongi will agree. It's Paddy, who I think we could lose. He's got offers from, well, he had one concrete offer from a club in the National League, and there may be more during the summer. So we'll offer him a deal, and we are protected slightly with the Bosman ruling, but I'm not going to hold Paddy back, and I'm confident the club and the board wouldn't do it as well. So we do want some sort of compensation for him, but there's an opportunity for Paddy to become a professional footballer, which any young player, that's their dream, and we can't stand in their way if that happens.
I mean, the only argument you could say is he's only 18. I mean, would he be better off having another season with Hyde, do you think? Or is it one of those just let him go and flourish?
I just think the longer he stays part-time, the bigger the gap gets, because professional footballers are training full-time, obviously not at the moment, but when they get back to it. So for his development, he needs to be training full-time. Now, if he's not playing games at a full-time club, I'd strongly advise him to go out on loan to a club like ourselves where he's going to play football, because alongside full-time training, if he's playing every week at whatever level, he's going to develop as a player. He can't be sat on the bench or in the stands at these clubs. But the clubs we've spoken to understand that, and I think there would be potential to get him back on loan if he wasn't involved. But that's a conversation for another time.
You mentioned recruitment now. Is that the biggest thing you've learnt this year? You know, in terms of recruitment, maybe. I know there's a couple of times after Radcliffe and after Nantwich where you've gone in and got other players. Do you think maybe you've admitted it yourself, you maybe need to see the warning signs earlier and recruit players in? Yeah,
there's 2 ways of looking at it. One, I think we definitely need to stay on top of it a little bit more, which again we have done throughout the season from beginning to end. But 2, it's very difficult for us to maintain a strong squad because lads who are on the bench don't get paid their full money, so they're going to have options elsewhere. So when injuries do occur, 2-3 injuries in 1 week, we've got to go and find 2 or 3 players, which is very, very difficult to do. On the other side of it, that's where we want to improve on having, we have got a database on players, but having players lined up, right, if he gets injured, we're going to go and approach this player, or we know exactly where we're going to go for the replacements. But that's something you've got to keep on top of on a week-to-week basis, because the market changes week in, week out. And last year we were dealing in a very small market. I mean, we were outbid on several players that dropped 2, even 3 leagues below us to pick up more money. But that was where we found ourselves, and that's why I think we've done a good job overall, and we were happy with where we ended the season, because at times it has been difficult from that aspect. So 1, we have had our hands tied a little bit, but 2, there has been room for improvement on our side, and that's where hopefully next season, we don't know where we are budget-wise yet, but I'm hoping that we somehow close the gap on other teams. And for us, like I said, we've learned this season, and we'll make sure that we're on top of things a bit more. And year after year, we're going to keep improving. Yeah, I mean, I know you want to keep most of the squad. I know you kind of not agreed, but made them offers, or at least come back in pre-season and have a look, and then you only need to maybe top up with 2 or 3, 4 players. Yeah, so the squad at the end of the season, if you looked at it, I think we ended with 12 players, and there was a couple of long-term injuries. They were supplemented by the loans. We've invited all of them players back. I'm hoping that we can give them financial offers that are along the same lines, or if not more. But again, I don't know that at the moment. All the indications from the players are good. It's early doors, and there's nothing really I can do now in terms of that. I'm speaking to the players on a weekly basis to just make sure everything's all right with themselves personally. But until we know when we're actually starting and we can sit down as a club and say, right, this is what we can afford, I can't make financial offers to our existing players or to new players. In terms of recruitment, my ideal situation is bringing everyone back who we had at the end of last season, because I think there's a real nucleus of a squad there that can achieve something, and add in 5 or 6 players on top of that where we'd look to strengthen. And I've started my work with that, and we've identified the players. But again, there's nothing I can do financially with that. So it is just putting seeds out with players. Look, we do rate you, we've seen you play, we've studied you, we know your character, we'd love you to join Hyde United, but we can't make you an offer yet until we know exactly where we're at.
And the virtual matches have really taken off, unbeaten in that so far. The virtual manager, virtual Dave McGurk's doing really well, isn't he?
Yeah, 1 game ago, isn't there? Yeah, I think there's 1 game ago on the bridge, so we'll stay unbeaten. Did we beat Man United though? No, lost.
No, we didn't. No. I know it was on my friendly, but no, we didn't.
Right. Yeah, it's been brilliant. The idea initially, straight away, as soon as I heard, I thought this is something that can take off. And I think you've only got to look at all the other teams that are doing it now, because the amount of money that has come in has been unbelievable for this football club, just through one simple idea, which is give everyone a little bit of a laugh, a little bit of involvement with. And other teams have seen it and jumped on it, and fair play to them, you would do. Obviously, the games are going to run out on Saturday, virtual games. We can't keep them going, and we'll come up with some other fundraising ideas, because I can't emphasise how important this money has been to the football club. And fingers crossed we get started back on schedule next season. But if we don't, we are going to need some more money coming in, because there's still bills to pay. Everything will be minimal, but there is some finances that still will need to be paid. And we haven't got a benefactor at the football club. We are a fan-owned club. So every penny that's came in from the supporters and from supporters of other teams has been fantastic, and my thanks go out to all of them.
Yeah, because it's funny that you mentioned about the bills, because I know the last couple of games have helped pay off basically the electricity bill that we had in the winter months when the lights are on 7 days a week. So it saved the clubs having to go into the reserves that they've got. They can just use the money that the fans have raised.
Yeah, well, Pete's been brilliant at the football club in terms of getting on top of everything and making sure we're on top of outstanding bills. So I think the club are pretty much up to date with everything, and that's been helped with the government grants that the football club have received. And we're confident if the season starts on time next year, we'll be in a good place, but there's just such uncertainty around it. If I've read reports it could start late this year or even early next year, and it is going to be then difficult, and we're going to be calling upon fans and supporters for help again, because without the games there is no real income into the football club. The 3G pitch is another one, but we don't have that. So the board and everyone above me has been brilliant in terms of keeping things going as they are at the moment, and I'm sure they'll do it throughout the summer. But the real challenge will be if the season doesn't start on schedule, which I personally don't think it will, but fingers crossed it'll only be a month or two behind that.
Yeah, you mentioned obviously about the 2 cup finals. I mean, unfortunately, I think it's been announced that the semi-finals have been scrapped. I know there was a muted idea maybe of the Cheshire FA playing a pre-season tournament to get that out of the way, but that's dead in the water now, isn't it?
Yeah, we would have loved to have done that, because it would have just added a little bit of edge to the friendlies as well. But a couple of the clubs it's fair enough. They just said they're not in a position to commit to that because they don't know what pre-season is going to look like, which is fair. So the Cheshire FA have decided to cancel it. I think there's a couple of local competitions who've decided to go ahead, but it is what it is. We can't do anything about it. We'll just have to get on with that. I think there's an idea mooted around the local non-league clubs in Manchester creating some sort of pre-season tournament, which would be good, and hopefully bring a few more fans in if the fans are allowed to come and watch at that point. And for me, pre-season games are difficult, and if you just add that little bit of competitive edge to it, it does give you a little bit more in them games, and you get a little bit more out of them. So fingers crossed they work out okay. And I know they've said it's null and void, but I'll class this season as we finished 10th. That was a good finish, and we were in 2 semi-finals. Disappointing we couldn't finish it, but you can't just write the season off. I think when you look back, you would say it was a successful season.
Although Stalybridge and FC United never happened at Christmas, did it? We can say
the position counts, but the results don't. Them ones anyway. We'll just count the first few games.
In terms of the players, are they all in good health as far as you know?
Yeah, no one's complaining about anything. And again, all family members as well all seem to be good. So caught up with most, if not all, of the lads last week, and then a couple in the last few days as well. So yeah, I'm on the other end of the phone if anyone needs anything, and they all know that. There's a few lads who are furloughed with their own jobs, a few lads who are still working. For instance, Carl Brownhill, he's a fitness instructor, but he's working from home, and his business has actually gone better than he anticipated. So yeah, the lads are all doing okay, and none of them really rely on the football money itself. So that's a good thing, and they've either been furloughed or they are still working from home.
And finally, Dave, just a message to the fans, really.
To the fans, first of all, without wanting to sound like the government, stay safe. We want to see you back at the ground next year, whenever that may be, hopefully sooner rather than later. And just a massive, massive thank you for the contributions that have been made to the virtual games and any fundraising efforts that we've done, because, as I said earlier, you don't realise how far that has gone with the football club, even to this point, keeping the club going. And because of these contributions, we'll be okay getting through the summer. We may need to fundraise a little bit more if it goes on beyond that, but I've got no doubts that our supporters will rally around again, as well as they have. So yeah, just a massive thank you.
And we'll hope to catch up in 2 or 3 weeks' time, maybe do a bit of a Q&A and see if some fans can send us in some questions. So to stay tuned to Twitter and social media, you can find out how to do that.
Yep, get it set up and we'll go ahead with it, yeah.
Brill. Well, cheers, Dave, and best of luck and stay well.
Cheers, Luke. Take care of yourself, mate.